Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL Draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner. Prospect Corner.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Prospect Corner presented by the Hockey Writers. Today, we'll be taking a look back at the 2016 NHL Draft and redrafting the entire group to see where everyone lands 7 years later. I'm your host, Logan Horn, and today I'm joined by my co-hosts and fellow prospect analysts, Matthew Zator and Peter Baracchini. How are you doing, Matt?
I am doing great. There's no hockey, but we still can talk about stuff. Redrafts are always fun. Yeah. Looking back at some of these players, what they've done, and there's some prominent names in the 2016 draft that have done quite a bit in the last 7 years. So it's going to be fun to kind of look back and see, what teams would have picked them if they knew what was happening with them now. So it's really fun to do this. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's fun. NHL GMs look really dumb when you look back 7 years ago, but we have hindsight, so we're going to look really smart. Peter, how are you doing?
Yeah, it's a good thing hindsight is in our corner right now, because who knows what could happen. But it's slow with the junior hockey not starting up. I mean, we got the Hlinka Gretzky coming up at the beginning of August, but it's like, you know what, that's still like about a week or two away. So you know what, let's just have some fun,
Absolutely. It's quite a ways away. Like you said, the Hlinka Gretzky is the last big thing on the schedule until NHL training camps in September, I guess.
Yeah.
But as of the recording, only Canada and Slovakia have released their rosters. We've already had a chance to talk about Canada's roster a little bit, and we'll have time for that coming down the pipeline a little. So, as I mentioned, we're going to be doing a redraft of the 2016 NHL Draft. You might see a few episodes along these lines throughout the summer, kind of retrospectively looking at prospects and young players and stuff like that. Let us know in the comments if you have any ideas for types of episodes you'd like to see or anything like that, some off-season content. But without further ado, we're going to get started in here. So first overall went to the Toronto Maple Leafs. You might have remembered that. And I guess I could have given this to you, Peter, but I think it's such a no-brainer. Matt, you've got the first overall pick here for Toronto. Who do you have them taken first?
This is going to be a really tough decision on who to pick for the Maple Leafs in this point, but I'm thinking to go with this guy named Auston Matthews. Probably one. He's pretty good. So I'm going Auston Matthews first overall. This does not change. He's probably one of the best snipers in the NHL, maybe even the best at this point in his age group, at least. I mean, you got Ovechkin still in the league, so he's probably there. But Matthews just probably perennial. Like, he didn't score 60 this past season, but you're pretty safe to say he's going to score 40 most seasons, and then the occasional 50, whatever. But there's a lot of things about Matthews not re-signing in Toronto, whatever, but he's definitely the pick here. Maple Leafs, no-brainer picking Auston Matthews again 7 years later.
Yeah, that's the easiest pick of the draft here, I think. There are a couple other players that, if you're taking only the last 12 months into account, would have some serious cases, but that feels like you have an elite first-line center, one of the very best players in the world. That's an easy pick there. Okay, so I'm picking second for Winnipeg, the Winnipeg Jets, and I will actually take for them Matthew Tkachuk. There's a few players here I'd consider, but from what we've seen from Tkachuk, just leveling up over the last 2 years, especially once he got to Florida this last year, just looking like the guy, like someone that can drag a team to the playoffs, drag them as far as he did into the playoffs. Hard to not believe in him these days. And just the style of play is, everyone loves watching it, basically. Like, he's just so physical, and he loves getting under the other team's, his opponent's skin, while still scoring at an insane rate. So Matthew Tkachuk is my second overall pick for the Winnipeg Jets instead of Patrik Laine. It'd be interesting to see how far he falls here, actually. Peter, you're up next for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
I mean, it would be pretty nice if I did take Patrik Laine here because the Blue Jackets already have him, but I'm not going to. I am actually going to go with Charlie McAvoy, third overall, mainly because of the fact that this is a defenseman who could do it all. Great in his own end, plays with that edge. Obviously, point production is not going to stand out, but the fact that he's very consistent on both sides of the puck shows that he's one of the top defenders in this league, and he's very responsible, capable of playing in all situations, all heavy minutes. And, you know, even before, I believe it was even before like the defensemen started to dwindle with the Winnipeg Jets in their defense or with their roster. Not the Winnipeg Jets, the Columbus Blue Jackets, sorry. They were in a little bit of a bind with their defensive core. And not only that, they did take Zach Werenski before that, the year before. So imagine if Werenski and McAvoy were paired together or at least on the same team within the top four. Logan, I can see that that's just unfair right there. So I'm going Charlie McAvoy.
That's a great one. I'm a huge Charlie McAvoy believer. Might be a bit of a bold choice over Adam Fox, who has won the Norris Trophy, and McAvoy hasn't. But I do think McAvoy is a better defensive player. I don't think that's tough to argue, while being slightly less flashy offensively. So depends on where you see that balance for both players. I think it's a totally reasonable pick. And I love that one for Columbus there. So Matt, you're up at 4th overall for Edmonton. They came out of this with Jesse Puljujärvi, who never really established himself as much more than like a bottom 6 guy who might have a little bit of depth offense. But who do you have them taking here? Hopefully it's a bit of an upgrade.
This is going to be a pretty big upgrade. Edmonton Oilers are going to choose a defenseman here and going with Mikhail Sergachev, who went to the Montreal Canadiens at 9th overall in this one. Between the two, you got Adam Fox here too, you could pick, but I'm going on the hindsight of the fact that he probably wouldn't want to sign in Edmonton either, since he didn't want to sign in Calgary. So also looking at hindsight there, we got that benefit.
That's fair.
So Oilers have some inside information and going with Mikhail Sergachev, who's become, I mean, yes, the Tampa Bay Lightning have Victor Hedman, but Sergachev has turned into one of the better two-way defensemen in the league now, and he's signed a huge extension with the Lightning and probably one of their best defensemen. So having the Oilers picking him here, and you know, they've needed defense, and I kept saying this even at this draft, so many good defensemen, they should have picked a defenseman. Well, they are now. Sergachev.
That's fair. I like it. I like the hindsight factor there of there's no way Fox would go to Edmonton, so don't even bother. I like that. I'm gonna break that though. I think I'm picking 5th for Vancouver, who got Olli Juolevi, and I feel like they would want to go defenseman again, and they'd take Adam Fox with the hope that they'd be able to convince him.
Fine.
But if they can't, then the dream is they take the same deal that Calgary ultimately did with the signing rights to Adam Fox and trade him to Carolina for Noah Hannafin and Elias Lindholm, who I think would fill out their team pretty nicely, to be honest with you. And if that happened at the same time the deal actually happened, then I think the Canucks still would have had enough time to pick Elias Pettersson. So imagine the current Canucks, but with Noah Hannafin on the left side behind Quinn Hughes. Maybe they would have been too good to get Quinn Hughes, but who knows? Ripple effects and all that. But I can't let Adam Fox fall any further. So he's going 5th overall to Vancouver. We did joke beforehand that it would be funny if Fox fell to 6th to Calgary and then he didn't sign there again. But I just couldn't let him go any further. So Peter, you're picking at 6th, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, all of the high-end defenders, the really high-end defenders, are gone now. So you might have a different choice unless you think they're reaching here a little bit. But who do you have at 6th for Calgary?
Yeah, definitely not going for a defense, but I am going to pick a forward. And this is under the assumption that hopefully he would not have put in a trade request because of a coaching situation and wanting a request out. Again, hindsight. I don't know if this will actually happen, but it would be fun if they did take Alex DeBrincat, and I am going to take Alex DeBrincat now for the Calgary Flames. You know, they're no stranger to drafting, you know, smaller, like players on the smaller end of, you know, the spectrum or whatever, because of the fact that, you know, they've drafted, you know, Matthew Coronado, who's 5'10". I believe Jacob Pelletier is still hovering around that 5'9", 5'10" range as well. If I'm not mistaken, I'll go back and double check that. Jacob Pelletier is 5'9", 5'9". So Alex DeBrincat is a small player, highly skilled. So, but he also plays with that edge. And obviously right now he's coming into his own as one of, you know, a top point producer. Then again, he was playing with Chicago, bad seasons, but even in his last season on a bad Hawks team, still produced very well. I would have no doubt that even in a struggling Flames organization, he would probably put up the same numbers as, you know, maybe Tyler Toffoli did and still be an impact player for the Flames if that were the case. But you just can't deny the dynamicism that he has with the puck, his playmaking, his shot. It's on another level right now. And the fact that he was taken in the second round when he should have been in the first, he definitely went higher this time around.
Yeah, just a little bit, but no, I agree. I think it's a good thing to mention that he's actually a pretty good physical player too, especially for the size, because people see him and they're like, oh, he must just, you know, just skate around and try to dodge people and all that. But actually, if you look at, there are only 3 players in the cap era, so since 2005, to score 40 plus goals and have over 100 hits in a single season. And those are Steven Stamkos, Alex Ovechkin, and Alex DeBrincat. Those are the only 3 players to do that in a single season. He's been getting more and more hits every year. So he's becoming a little more physical, a little more feisty out there. So yeah, I think that's a fun pick for Calgary. They're whatever the opposite of a goon squad is, where they're just like really small instead of like big and bruising. That's kind of what Calgary's growing there, but I'm into it. I like it. Matt, you're picking at 7 for the Arizona Coyotes. I believe at this time they were still called the Phoenix Coyotes. So do with that information what you will. They might have changed already by then. Anyway, who do you have going 7th?
Well, this is a tough one because they've picked Clayton Keller at 7th overall at this point. I'm going to stay there, and I'm going to go with Clayton Keller again because he's turned into such an important player for them. I could be the next captain. It's looking that way. And this would be a great pick even at 7th overall. I don't see him being a worse player than where he is ranked here and where he goes. So Arizona's going the same way, going with Clayton Keller. Nice.
That's a good one. I like Keller a lot. He's grown on me, and he's been pretty consistent in the NHL from a very young age. So happy to see him really growing into that, becoming a bit of a star. 8th overall is the Buffalo Sabres. That's my pick. I wasn't sure he was going to be here, but I'll happily take him. I'm going to take TAGE Thompson, who obviously wasn't drafted by them, but really broke out there. And now they get him right off the bat. Hopefully he still figures things out and have enough patience for him. Although it would be funny if they traded him to St. Louis and then he breaks out there instead. But I'm going to take TAGE Thompson, just really broken out the last 2 years. Going like 3 years ago, he was one of the worst full-time NHLers, like horrible shot selection accuracy. It just he couldn't seem to put it together, but something happened that summer. I'm not sure what. And he put up 70 points the next year. And then he put up, I think, just over 90 this last year, 40 something goals. He's on a sharp upward trajectory, and likely so are the Sabres. So I have them taking him here with the benefit of hindsight strongly on my side, because they need that help. Peter, you're up next at 9th for Montreal, the Montreal Canadiens.
Ooh, this is really tough now. Obviously I'm going back and forth between 2 players. Both of them have dropped, but again, I'm working hindsight with me, because if you already draft Cole Caulfield on the right side and you take Patrik Laine, another right-handed or he's a left-handed shot, right wing, left wing, right shot, you have 2 shooting threats on basically one line, one power play unit. That'll be extremely fun. And obviously with the fact that, you know, you take Caulfield in the next draft, having Laine already in the books right now, he's still no stranger in putting the puck in the back of the net. Obviously his play and production has dipped aside from, like, you know, his first 2-3 seasons with the Winnipeg Jets. Now that he's maybe starting to find his production again, back-to-back 50-point seasons, didn't crack 30 goals, but he might be able to start that again. So if you have another 30 goal scorer on the Canadiens, I think that'll be really fun. So Laine is going to be my pick.
That's a good one. I think he's kind of been, and I do not intend this as like any kind of slight against Columbus. He does feel like he's been a little bit forgotten since he made it to Columbus.
Yeah.
He's had some personal struggles he's gone through with family emergencies and stuff like that, and coaching situations haven't been the best for him there. But just a ton of talent as a finisher, and flashes of just elite puck skill. So like there's still a lot to work with there. And I think Montreal will be pretty happy with that. Matt, you're up next at 10th overall for the Colorado Avalanche.
All right. Well, Colorado Avalanche, they already have Nate McKinnon, I believe, at this point already. So they're going to go with another, and this could be their perennial second line center, Pierre-Luc Dubois, who dropped from 3rd overall all the way down to 10th now, and going to the Colorado Avalanche. It's funny because I believe he was probably your other choice, Peter.
He was.
So,
because LA wasn't
rumors, there. All those rumors they were supposed to go there.
Yeah, that's right.
Had been drafted by them. But so Dubois goes to the Avalanche, and a pretty good 1-2 punch with Nathan McKinnon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's real sweet. I thought this guy would be off the board as well. He was higher on my list. So I will Ottawa Senators are running onto this stage at 11th overall to take Jesper Bratt, who has been phenomenal for the Devils over the last couple of years and just got extended long term as a part of that supercharged top 6 they've got going there with Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, and other name is escaping me, traded at the deadline. That happens to me like once an episode.
Timo Meier?
Timo Meier. Once an episode, someone's name just disappears. Thank you so much, Timo Meier. Just a crazy forward core in real life in New Jersey, but instead he goes a little too soon here, and Ottawa gets a really talented offensive winger there in Jesper Bratt. Peter, you're up next for the New Jersey Devils at 12.
Yeah, you took my pick because I was just gonna do the easy one, Bratt to the Devils. You know what? I am going to pick Jordan Kyrou for the Devils. You know what? It's best player available. Obviously, you in hindsight, you really can't tell what's going to happen. Maybe if they had Kyrou as their centerman, maybe they don't take Nico Hischier with the first pick in the next draft, because I believe after that is 2017. That is the draft where that didn't quite work out. But then again, the hope is that Nolan Patrick would work out, and that one's really tough because, or you could take Miro Heiskanen first overall. But I'm going to go under the impression that, Jordan Kyrou is still going to be a 20-30 goal guy that could put up 70 points a season. And, he's been very consistent since his draft year. There isn't any doubt about that. Hopefully things would work out if the Devils did take him, because he's a really strong offensive two-way type of centerman. And he's very smart on both sides of the puck. So that'll be my pick.
Yeah, totally fair pick there. Sorry, I swooped in and snagged Bratt too soon for you.
If I was the Devils, I probably would have traded down.
Yeah, maybe. Matt, you're up at 13th. Yeah, 13th for the Carolina Hurricanes.
Oh, this one's they've got a few choices here that they could potentially go with. And the Hurricanes, they picked Jake Bean at this point in their actual draft. So they're going to go with a different defenseman and go with Jacob Chychrun at say 13th overall, jumping up a bit. Chychrun went 16th in the actual to the Arizona Coyotes. So Carolina is going to get probably future number 1 top pairing defenseman here in Jacob Chychrun.
Nice. Okay, so I'm picking 14th then for the Boston Bruins, and no one's really standing out here in this area for me as a major Boston type. So I'm just going to stick to my own advice. I'm going to go best player available. And for me at this point, I'm going to go with Philip Gustafsson, the first goalie off the board. There's not a ton of goalies that have established themselves from this draft quite yet. And there's one whose name I'm sure we'll hear fairly soon, who is typically more highly thought of. But Gustafsson has looked so good in the last year and a half, maybe 2 years in the NHL. And I think there's a chance he's a really good starting goalie in the NHL, which is pretty valuable at 14th overall, I'd say. So just one more pick in the first half of this draft, because as it used to be for very many years, it's just 30 picks. So 15th overall, Peter, you're picking for the Minnesota Wild.
I am going to take Samuel Girard. They're no strength. Again, they already have, a really, a smaller type defenseman in Jared Spurgeon. Obviously, he's more well-rounded, but the way that Girard is able to move the puck swiftly and cleanly in his transitional game, I think would go well for, a high-flying, or not necessarily high-flying offense, but a good team that could transition out of their own zone and quickly move the play up. And this is under the impression, again, hindsight, the impression that Kaprizov is going to be on this team as well. You have developing prospects like Kalen Addison coming up. Maybe you still do take Matt Boldy and Marco Kasper later on. So having someone like him on the back end to be a very strong, puck mover is definitely going to bode well for them. And I'm going to take him as my pick.
Nice. I like that one. It does feel like if they had Girard, maybe they would have moved on from Addison or Matt Dumba a little sooner, just to have like a different offensive talent in there and maybe move on or something like that. But I like that pick. So it's a strong top 15, but we're actually just going to take a very quick break at the midpoint of our draft here. But we'll be right back after a quick word from the Hockey Writers.
Interested in writing for the Hockey Writers? If you have experience writing about hockey, are passionate about the sport, and are looking to take your writing to the next level, the Hockey Writers could be the place for you. Here at THW, you will have the opportunity to hone your craft at one of the world's largest and most respected hockey publishers. You will have control over what you write, be able to seek out media credentials, and be supported by a large network of writers and editors. Plus, you'll get paid for doing it. If you're interested and want to know more about team openings and requirements, please visit the Write for THW page on the Hockey Writers website. A link to that page is also listed in the description.
All right, so we're going to jump back into the draft. I just want to quickly look back at the top 15. This is a pretty strong top half of the draft. I do feel like the talent is going to drop off quite a bit pretty soon here. But Peter, I'll come to you first. What are your thoughts on the top end here? Like there's a lot of high-end talent.
Yeah, if everything had panned out, this would be a very deep top 15. But then again, at that point, you didn't know what to expect. You have guys coming from like late in the first, early second, like Thompson, DEBRINCAT, and even Gustafsson and Girard as well, coming up into that top 15 range. Even Adam Fox, sorry, I even completely forgot about him. So this is where, players in those, you start to get a sense of those mid-round picks start to pay off. And then, later on, you realize that, they definitely most likely could be top 15 picks.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something Matt and I were just talking about before the show here. Like you really are with any pick past early in the second round, you're just like blindfold yourself and throw darts and hope you hit like the bullseye. And it does happen. It happens. Dumb luck and like wild development curves for someone like Alex DeBrincat, Adam Fox, where you go from probably underappreciated, but then to go from underappreciated to legitimately excellent. It's rare, but it happens, and that's why those guys are up here. Matt, what are your thoughts on this top 15 here? Any thoughts on risers or fallers or anything? Are you surprised there's no Aliu Alevi yet?
No, I'm not surprised.
No Puljujärvi?
Yeah, both of those guys. I mean, they had issues with not just like Puljujärvi, not with injuries, but with development and things like that. And these guys there at the time, they were ranked to be around these areas. Like it's not like Alevi wasn't supposed to go in the top 15. There was a lot of rankings that had him in there. But injuries happen, and this could have happened with a lot of these guys. And even with the guys that have panned out, like a Matthew Tkachuk, Auston Matthews. I mean, Matthews could have had a bad injury at some point and this goes down the hill. I mean, it unfortunately, that's just the nature of the game. And, not drafts are interesting that way. Like you said about trades too. I mean, you look at Adam Fox. I mean, he's not even playing for the team that drafted him. And even the team who's traded to didn't have him. So
Never played for them
eventually
either, yeah.
it happens where he does develop into the defenseman that he's supposed to be, but things just kind of go different directions. So it's interesting to look back on it all. And, that's why it's fun to do, because, the draft that was just finished. That's going to be a really interesting one to look back on in 5 years. So.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Lots of hindsight 7 years down the road for the 2023 draft. I'm sure some people that we were really high on will not really establish themselves as high-end players, and people that we barely talked about or never mentioned will be all-stars or something like that. So that's just the name of the game. It's just how the drafting process goes, trying to analyze 17-year-olds and try to figure out what they're going to be in 10 years, which is basically impossible. But anyway, we do our best. Anyway, we're going to move on to this second half here, the back half of the draft. And Matt, you're up first here, picking for the Phoenix Arizona Coyotes at 16th overall.
Well, again, this is going to be interesting because you got not as high end guys left that you're kind of looking at. I'm going to go goaltender, and Carter Hart going to the Arizona Coyotes. He's, in Philadelphia, he's had some issues, not just him, but the team around him with the defense, and going into the league a little young. I mean, I believe he came into the league like 19 or something like that. It was very young. I think that halted his development a bit. So hopefully in Arizona, they won't do that to him. But because he entered the NHL the season after he was drafted, 2018-19. Never mind. We're doing the 2016, but he was really young for a goaltender coming into the league. He was in his early 20s. And, that's just, goaltenders are weird. I mean, and we all know this. He's only 24 right now. I mean, that's hopefully Arizona doesn't do that to him. So Arizona needs goaltending at this point as well. I don't know who they had as their goaltender. They haven't really had an established. Darcy Kemper may have been there at this point.
Mike Smith, maybe.
They had a lot of goaltenders going through there at some point.
Oh yeah.
So Carter Hart's hopefully their goaltender of the future, and so he's going at 16th here.
Nice. That's a good one. I do want to say I fact checked myself, and they were already the Arizona Coyotes. That change happened in 2014. So I just want to say apologies to the Coyotes fans out there. I thought it was fun, but they weren't Phoenix at the time. They were Arizona. Anyway, Carter Hart there at 16. I like that pick a lot. Towards the end, we're running out of the guys that I feel like.
I want to double check. He was 20. He was 20 at the end of the NHL, so
that's tough. And he's been inconsistent, but you kind of expect that for someone who's 22, 23 in these seasons. Really good start to the year last year, but then kind of fell off. Who knows what Philly will get going forward if he's in Philadelphia. Anyway, so I'm picking 17th for the Nashville Predators, and looking at the list left, I'm going to go with Filip Hronek. Kind of feels like at that point in time, we were all talking about the Predators as like a defenseman factory. All these great defensemen they had. It was like they had like 7 second pairing defensemen. It was like, what's going on here? And they just kept trading them at will, and they just would develop more, and it just kept going. And Hronek kind of feels like a good fit in there. So I'm going to give them Filip Hronek. And Peter, you're up next at 18 for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, this is where things are going to get a little bit interesting, where those darts are just going to start flying onto the wall right now. But yep. I am going to pick Dylan Dubé. I feel like he is a very Winnipeg Jets type of player, with the energy, the intensity that he plays with. No nonsense. He's great on both sides of the puck. And, given how the Winnipeg Jets play with that, rough and tumble mentality, he's a very tough customer to go up against. He may not be overly physical, but he's very intent on when hunting down pucks and even establishing a forecheck. So he kind of fits their mentality and mold. So he's going to be my pick for the Jets.
That's a great one. I feel like Dubé doesn't get enough shine, but he's a perfect middle six forward. Like he's exactly what you want in there. He could be your third line center, or he could be a second line winger. Really, really great player. I like him a lot. Seen a little extra of him while living in Calgary here, and I'm a big fan. So I like that pick for Winnipeg there. Matt, you're up next at 19th overall for the New York Islanders.
Oh, yeah, this is like Peter said, it's a little tough now getting into this point. I'm gonna go with Islanders are gonna pick. Let's see here, who we got left. Yeah, Dylan Dubois was a good pick. That was one that
It's very suddenly slim pickings.
Yeah. They're gonna take a swing. I think not taking a swing, but this is a guy that did go in the first round. I still think he has a lot of potential, even though he's 25 now. But DANTE FABBRO going to the New York Islanders at 19th overall. I think he'd fit better in with the Islanders. Like you said, with the Predators, there's so many defensemen, and he is with the Predators still, but kind of maybe lost his shine a bit on how high end of a defenseman he was when he first entered the league. But he's had a decent run. I think he could still be pretty good with the Islanders. And at this point, I don't know what their roster looked like, but he wouldn't be on the roster right away anyway. So I think the Islanders would really benefit with him going down the road, because I still think he has a lot of potential going forward here, because he hasn't hit his primes.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. FABBRO had a lot of fans in the prospect community for quite a few years. Hasn't really hit that potential, but I think there's still a real chance he's a second pairing guy, which would be an excellent pick at 19th overall. That's still really good. At 20th overall is the Detroit Red Wings. I am going to take Brandon HAGEL because I think there's a chance that he would establish himself as middle six center, maybe top six winger. And at very worst, you can trade him to Tampa because they'll spend way too much on him, but also it might be worth it. I don't know. Brandon HAGEL has been a revelation. He was really starting to break out, and Chicago cashed in quick. They were like, we are not going to wait to find out if he's the real deal. We're going to ship him out and get a ton in return from Tampa Bay. And it's looked pretty good for both sides, to be honest, at this point. So yeah, Detroit's taking HAGEL at 20, super tenacious, pretty good skill. He's worked out pretty well on Tampa's top line the last year and a half. So I've got him going 20th. Peter, you're up next at 21 for the Carolina Hurricanes.
Well, you know how I said, imagine, Zach Werenski and Charlie McAvoy as a tandem defensively. Imagine Sebastian Aho and Jesse Puljujärvi reunited together.
Oh, that's fun. That's nice. I like that one.
Yeah. Not in the sense that it would be nice to see that 2/3 of that dominant World Junior connection on that line or on that team, but just because of the fact that kind of like Ole Juolevi that we talked a bit about at the start, his progression, his development didn't quite go well, but then again, he had certain injuries as well. Imagine if Puljujärvi was already in the development system and was taking the strides that Aho did with the Carolina Hurricanes. I think he would have been at his peak. He would have reached his potential, and being that strong, aggressive, two-way playmaking winger that, made him so dynamic as a World Junior as a junior prospect and even World Junior standout. I think that this is a team that Carolina would take a swing on. Then again, they like to go after their Finns as well, as we've seen later on. But I do think that this would have been a good pick had he been in the right system and they got his development on track. And I think it would have worked out.
I like that pick. I hadn't even thought of that connection, but I like it a lot. Reunite those Finns. Matt, you're up next at 22nd overall for the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah, just a quick thing on Puljujärvi. I think that's a big thing, is the development with him, because and we've said this many times that drafting is step one, and development's your biggest. I think the biggest step after that, and to see where they go. So yeah, I think he would actually be really good in Carolina, even though he did play there this past season.
Currently, he did play there this year. That's why.
But again, not the way he's supposed to. I think
had he had a little bit more time to play with Aho, I think that would have been very key.
100%. Yeah. All right, for Philly, I think the Philadelphia Flyers are going to go big for. I mean, maybe not. I still think this guy's a pretty good defenseman too. So Logan Stanley going to the Philadelphia Flyers here. Fits the system that the Flyers were playing at that point. Who knows what they do in the future with guys like that. But I think Stanley's turned into a pretty good defenseman in the NHL. He's a big guy. So, I mean, I think he'd fit in Philly. So Logan Stanley, 22nd overall to the Flyers.
I like that. I don't think that he would go much further down in a redraft if NHL GMs were doing a redraft, because genuinely just someone that big, if you're like, give me that much time to help him figure the skating out and get some more offense going, and they can see it. Because I can see it too. We can all see it when we see that massive frame. It just hasn't quite worked out to the level that was hoped when he was drafted. I think actually he was drafted 18th by Winnipeg. That's when their first rounder was. I think that might be where he landed. I know he was an early pick because of the size, but I wouldn't be shocked if he
18
went again pretty soon. Okay, yeah. I like that one. Team Logan, rise up. We're largest growing group in the NHL. Logan Stankoven, Logan Cooley. We're coming for you. Never going to catch up to the Mats though, honestly. No. But I'm picking next at 23rd overall for the Florida Panthers. I just had an idea for a different episode where we do like name themed teams and see which of our teams would win. Maybe just starting lineups though, because I don't think there's enough Logans or Peters, but
I would probably win in like the late 90s, early thousands.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's right. We'll look into this. We'll look into it. But the Panthers at 23rd overall, I'm going to have them taking Ross Colton. Not a huge like upside swing here, but someone that feels like a very safe bottom six option, maybe a little higher in the lineup. Just a really good rotation guy that you know what you can expect from Ross Colton. He's going to work hard. He's going to score a bit. He can handle a bigger role for a period of time if he's playing with the better line mates, the better players, as a bit of a complimentary puck retrieving guy. But he can drive play pretty well in the bottom six. So I'll go with Ross Colton there. Someone who made his name for the other team in Florida. But now he's with the Panthers. So, Peter, you're up again here at 24th, picking for the Anaheim Ducks.
Gosh, this is even more difficult now.
Yeah, now it's like we're throwing darts again.
Yeah, now it's back to the dart throwing. You know what? This may seem like a bit of an off the board pick. But I really liked him in juniors, and he's still with the Anaheim Ducks right now. I'm gonna take Josh Mahura with this pick. I know it's kind of out of the blue right now, but I still believe that he has good upside as a defenseman. Obviously he's been in the league for some time right now, but then again, he doesn't really have a full season until this one with the Florida Panthers. Oh, he's with the Florida Panthers now. Yeah. I completely forgot about that, but he was still with the Ducks when they drafted him around this time. Just maybe a little bit higher up, but I still like his upside and his potential. Obviously he's getting a little bit up there in age where maybe now he's got to start showing it a little bit more, but I really liked him. And I think he's still a player that probably could have gotten a little bit more attention with his two-way game in the first round.
Nice. That's a fun one. I like that pick for Anaheim again here. This draft really does kind of fall off in the 20 range, maybe a little sooner, maybe at the end of our first half there. But we keep going. There's still like talented full-time players here that are good middle of the lineup guys, but this draft, what it has in star power at the top, it lacks in depth, it seems. So Matt, you're up next at 25th for the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, I can say it's tough to pick guys now. I still think this guy could still potentially be. He's been really good, maybe not as high as where he did go. But he's been a really good player for the New Jersey Devils the last few seasons, and that's Michael McLeod. Going a little further down, 25th overall, he went 12. Really good on faceoffs. Probably I think he was one of the better guys on faceoffs for the Devils last season, and good third line center. Probably won't go further than that, but Michael McLeod, I think, would be a really good pick for the Dallas Stars at this point. So goes a little further down, but still goes in the first round.
Yeah, still a good pick. Like, still valuable NHL player, just not the star top 6 center that the Devils were hoping for when they took him so high. But still a valuable piece. So I like that pick there. I'm picking 26th overall for the St. Louis Blues. I'm torn between a couple players here, but I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to pick Matthew Phillips, who has gained a little bit of traction recently with the Calgary Wranglers, the AHL team, where he absolutely dominated the AHL, and then promptly was just sat in the press box by Sutter out there all year. I think he has a legitimate shot to be as like a second line winger. He's got just a ton of offense. He's a bit better defensively than you might expect from someone with that much offense and his size. I like him as just a big swing late in the first round. And if you picked someone in the late first and they turned out to be, depth offense / like elite AHL player, I think you take it. Because even just having great players in the AHL for your top prospects to kind of play with and learn from can be pretty valuable. Obviously it's not a huge win, but it could be a lot worse. So I'll take Matthew Phillips there at 26. Peter, you're at 27 here for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, I just realized that he was still available too after I made the Mahura pick, but it still kind of worked out because I'm going to take Luke KUNIN from originally drafted by the Minnesota Wild. I think that he fits there. We know how deep the Tampa Bay Lightning are in regards to their depth. I think that his mentality, his physicality, his energy would have been another good bottom 6 addition for that team if they had taken him or if he was available. Obviously, pretty, not so great offensively because of where he's at. He's probably, going to be that bottom 6 type player, but at the same time hasn't played a whole lot as well. Injuries have hampered him as well. I think he only played 31 games last season, has been in and out of lineups. But I do think that he does have a lot of potential to be that, factor in the bottom 6. And we know how well they have worked out for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I'm going to go with KUNIN.
Nice. I like that one. That's very true. They kind of like their workers in the bottom 6, and then they sell them off as if they're second liners or something. And just always just repeat that process. Matt, your last pick of this redraft here, 28th overall, the Washington Capitals. Who do you got?
Capitals are going to go with Taylor Radish at this point. Went in the second round to the Tampa Bay Lightning, but he's kind of emerged as a really good talent. He's scored 20 goals this past season for the Chicago Blackhawks, and I think he's on the upward trajectory now, and really good 3 seasons in the AHL after he was drafted, and really good junior player at 109 points in 2016-17. I think he still has a lot more to give offensively. I can see a few more 20 goal seasons from him. So I think he's a good pick for Washington right at the end of this redraft, because, the Capitals, they did pick Lucas Johansson here. Really hasn't panned out as much. He is playing with the Hershey Bears, but he's only 3 NHL games under his belt right now. So I think Radish is probably a similar type pick, but not a defenseman, obviously, but could be still a good guy for late in the first round here.
Yeah, absolutely. I am so glad that this worked out. I wasn't surprised, I guess, but I'm so glad. I have been planning one specific pick in this draft since the very beginning, and that is for the Boston Bruins with the 29th overall pick to take Olli Juolevi and have the ultimate villain arc where Juolevi actually doesn't get injured and turns out as a really good top 4 defenseman, further destroying the hopes and dreams of all Vancouver Canucks fans. But genuinely, Olli Juolevi, looking with hindsight, I feel enough hope that I would take him here very late in the first round. Genuinely had a ton of potential as a top 4 defenseman, likely more defensively inclined. But his skating was an issue before the injuries. and he just hasn't been able to really get back, because those years from 19 to 22, like barely playing hockey basically, and then COVID hitting a few years later, like just seriously unfortunate set of circumstances for him in his development years, his biggest years for development. I think there's still a chance he develops into a depth NHLer, someone who can play fairly legitimate games as like a 6th or 7th man. But he's starting to run out of runway a little bit. But I still have some hope, and I think it would be just the funniest case scenario if Boston took him and he was excellent, or just really good even. So that's my pick there at 29. Thank you guys for unknowingly playing along. And Peter, you've got the last pick of our 2016 redraft, 30th overall, the Anaheim Ducks. Who do you got?
Similar to you, kind of like a redemption arc, not whole villain-esque, but considering how he put up 104 points in the BCHL, I'm gonna go with Tyson Jost to the Anaheim Ducks. This is a player that had a lot of upside and a lot of potential. Playmaking center with a good shot, has been in the shadows, like in the depths because of the Colorado Avalanche and how deep their teams were. Gets traded to Minnesota, but then he managed to find some success with the Buffalo Sabres this season with 22 points in 59 games. So maybe you see if he's able to carve up a little bit or carve out a significant like depth role, but get a little bit more ice time. This is a player that can do some damage and can score at key moments. And I think that this would probably benefit the Anaheim Ducks. As obviously right now they're going through, their own struggles, but he can still be a really good depth leader that can help lead them through a tough time.
I like that one a lot. Jost went really early in this draft, and like you mentioned, just never really reached that. So I like giving him a shot here, though. Maybe a little less pressure, a little less of a rush to get him to the NHL, because like the Avalanche were just trying to rush everyone in. They were like, things were clicking together in place very quickly, and they're like, we want to be good, we want to be good, just come on in and play. And it doesn't work for everyone. It works for some, like Mikko Rantanen, who just played 1 year in the AHL and then was immediately like a star in the NHL. It doesn't work for everyone, especially coming out of junior A hockey in Canada. But I like that pick to finish off the first round. A couple honorable mentions I'll just toss out. Trent Frederick was in consideration for me. Sam Steele, Logan Brown, Rem Pitlick. Those are all guys that you could put in some of these later spots relatively interchangeably. Maybe not as high upside swings, but those are serious players in the NHL as well. So those are worth mentioning. Thank you guys for playing along here with me today as we do that. We are going to move on to our prospect of the week, the way we love to end our show each week. And Matt, I'll come to you first here. You've got your new favorite giant in the Canucks prospect pool. Who are you talking about today?
Yes, Vilmer Alriksson. Love the name. He
Great
is
name.
He was just drafted by the Canucks this past draft, and now is going to be playing in North America this coming season, and picked by the Guelph Storm in the CHL import draft earlier this month, July. And he's confirmed now. You never know when they pick these guys in the import drafts if they're going to come over, but he did confirm that he will be coming over to the Guelph Storm, playing next season. And as was at development camp with the Canucks, was working with, I believe it was Chris Higgins. There's one clip, and I love this because he was working with Chris Higgins, and Higgins said that he learned this from the Sedins on how to use the net as a shield or something like that. We're using the net as another player basically behind the net. And so that's really cool. He's going to be able to develop a bit better being in North America. So he's going to be playing for the Guelph Storm. So Alriksson, a very interesting pick, and could actually be a pretty good, big steal for the Canucks later in the draft, because he's got some potential, lots of size to his frame as well. So I'm really excited to see what he can do, because now I can watch him better. Because whenever they're in the overseas, it's very hit or miss to get video to watch these guys. And
for sure,
for the OHL, a lot easier. So I can I'll be able to watch him with the Guelph Storm coming season. So Wilmer Ulrichsen is my prospect of the week this week.
Nice. That's a fun one. And I like you said, like it could be a bit of a steal. Like you can definitely see a little bit of Elmer Soderblom when you watch Ulrichsen. Yeah. Just really, really big guy. Surprisingly good hands for the size. He's got a ways to go, but so does Soderblom when he was drafted. He's come a long way. So Ulrichsen is a fun name to watch for the next few years here as he develops through the CHL. Of all places. I'll go next here. I'm going with Adam Yecho. I'm probably got the pronunciation wrong there. I'll be honest. He's a player out of the Czech Republic or out of Czechia, apologies, who is eligible for the 2024 draft. And he actually was also part of import drafts and stuff in the CHL. He signed with the Edmonton Oil Kings of the WHL. He played in the top U18 league in Finland last year, and he scored 47 points in 37 games as a 16-year-old for most of the year. So he tore up that league, had a few games in the U20, which is surprising for a 16-year-old, 17-year-old. And he looked okay. He didn't score a ton, but it's not really something you expect at that point. The Oil Kings are going to give him a lot of time if he's playing well because they've lost all their high-end prospects, Sebastian Kosa, Dylan Gunther, lost or traded, all of them, I should say. So they're kind of in the rebuilding side of junior hockey. And I think Adam Yecho is going to be a great part of that and someone to watch. I'm sure as we get further into the year, we'll talk about him possibly as a first rounder in the draft. I'd have him in that range right about now, but lots of hockey to go. But that'll be a fun player to watch in the WHL. I guess we have OHL and WHL already. We're growing the CHL love over here, I guess, and that's not about to stop. So, Peter, your prospect of the week. Who do you have this week?
Yeah, Matt was talking about a giant that was just drafted, and I'm going for another one, 6'3", 216 pounds, Kasper Halttunen, who was drafted 36 overall by the San Jose Sharks. Obviously didn't have the draft year expected. Obviously, he looked good at the U20 level, 18 goals in 18 games, but was hit or miss at the senior level, was dealt with some injuries, in and out of the lineup, but he did sign his ELC, and that should be a great sign that he did impress at development camp for the Sharks. Now, what this means for his future is still up in the air. Currently, it still says he's on loan with HIFK in the Liga, so there's a possibility that he could still develop, get a strong season playing with men as a young teenager at the top level as well, but his rights are owned, or his CHL rights are owned by the London Knights, so he does come over to North America and does play some games here. It'll really be fun to see him play in the Hunter system because I think he's a player that would thrive in that environment because of his mentality and his power forward like game. I think he would really pop off there. And I'm going to give a little honorable mention, as this was also making the rounds on Twitter today. We all remember Miroslav Shatan, right? Well, apparently his son is starting to make some headways as a 17-year-old in the Slovak junior leagues, and his name is also Miroslav Shatan. So get ready for the Shatan to New Jersey Devils jokes because that's going to come nonstop. But I mean, it's great when we see parents of former NHLers or players former NHLers, so we were watching them right now and their kids are making their ways up through the rankings right now. It really is fun to see. I'm not gonna lie, and the fact that his name is just like his dad and he's Miroslav Shatan Jr. is really fun, and I'm glad I get to relive that a second time this time around.
Yeah, I remember that as a kid. First time I saw Shatan skating around, I was like, what is go hold on, what?
Yeah.
So I'm happy that hopefully another whole generation will get that get that experience.
And also I believe his son is 6'6", 179 pounds.
Massive.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty skinny for that height, but that is very tall.
Yeah,
he is very tall.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love that. Hopefully we hear more about him. That'd be a fun one. Fun player to follow, I'm sure. All right, well, that does it for us this week. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Prospect Corner. Make sure you subscribe to the Hockey Writers YouTube channel to make sure you catch all our new episodes, and also make sure you check out our site, thehockeywriters.com, for tons of draft and prospect coverage through the rest of the offseason and into next year as well. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Matt. And thank you all for coming along with us for another episode of Prospect Corner. We'll see you next time.